In this lesson, we're going to learn how to configure a trunk on a Nexus 5548. This same configuration could be applied to a Nexus 7000 as well. In our configuration, we have two Nexus switches that share a port, Ethernet 1/25. We're going to go through the setup procedure to configure this port as a trunk port. The first step we're going to do is log into the switch. The second step is enter the interface configuration for Ethernet port 1/25. The third step we're going to do is configure the port as a switch port. Fourth, we're going to configure the port as a trunk with the command switch port mode trunk. We then have the option to configure which VLANs are allowed on the port, and then issue the command no shutdown to enable the port. We'll do this on both sides for switch A and switch B, and then we'll do some show commands to make sure that things are running appropriately. Let's take a look. So I've already logged into my Nexus switches. I'm on switch A right now, and the first thing I want to do is enter my global configuration mode. From there, I want to go ahead and navigate into the port that I want to configure. I can take a look at this port configuration first by doing a show running config interface Ethernet 1/25. I can see right now that the port has no configuration applied to it. I can verify this by doing a show interface brief. Here I see port 125 is an access port, and it is up at the moment. So let's continue on to that interface. Interface Ethernet 1/25. I'm now in the configuration for that individual interface. The first thing I want to do is make sure that it's set as a switch port. Now I want to configure the switch port as a trunk by typing switch port mode trunk. The switch port is now configured as a trunk. By default, it allows all VLANs across the trunk. I can change this behavior by typing switch port trunk allowed VLANs, and I have a couple different options here. First, I can specify the individual VLANs I want to allow. If I specify those VLANs, those will be the only VLANs allowed on the trunk. If I already have VLANs specified, I can add VLANs to the trunk by typing the add command. I can specify all, which is the default behavior. I can specify except, so to have all VLANs except these VLANs, or I can specify none. And finally, I have the option to remove VLANs if I would like. I'm going to leave it with the default behavior and just say all. Finally, I want to make sure that my port is up, even though I know it already is from my show interface brief, by doing the no shutdown command. I should be all set on this side, so let's go to the other side and configure that device. First thing I want to do is go to my configure terminal. Second thing I want to do is go to the actual interface. Now I want to type the same commands I typed in on the other side. Switch port to make sure that it's acting as a switch port. Switch port mode trunk, which puts it in trunking mode. Then if I want to specify my VLANs, I can do that now, or I do my no shutdown to enable the port. Now there are a couple commands that I can do to make sure that my port is up and running. The first one I can do is a plain old show interface. I'm going to specify the interface that I want to see. As I can see right now, Ethernet 1/25 is up. I can see that it has packets that are being sent and received, so that's always good. So it looks like I'm all ready to go here. Let's try another command. Show interface trunk. If I do a show interface trunk, I can see all the ports that are configured as a trunk. I can see their native VLANs, the VLANs that are allowed, which ones are error disabled, if any, which ones are spanning tree forwarding, which is very important, otherwise I won't have any communication, over my trunk port and which ones are being pruned. So here I can see Ethernet 1/25 is forwarding both of my VLANs, VLAN 1 and VLAN 999, and it is not being pruned. So everything is good to go. The final command I want to perform is show interface E1/25 switch port. Now this command shows me quite a bit of information. First of all, it shows me the switch port is enabled. Second of all, it shows me that I'm running in an operational mode called trunk. Third, it shows me what my native VLAN is for that trunk. It also shows me which VLANs are being trunked across the trunk port, 1, 99, 102 through 105, and finally, which VLANs are enabled but are being pruned. So this is a very useful command when you're troubleshooting your trunk ports.